Hello, I'm Guy Daniels, Director of Content at Telecom TV, and welcome to our Strategy Outlook series on service management and orchestration, the keys to Open RAN success. This is the first of three special programs in the series. In this edition, we're going to look at the emergence of Open RAN and the role of Cloud RAN. Our second program will take a closer look at the Open RAN market opportunities. And then we have a live show on Tuesday, November the 16th, where we will be taking questions from our audience. So what is Open RAN's place in the current telecoms landscape? What are the possible next steps for the Open RAN community? And what unique business opportunities will this present? To find out, Ray Lemaitre, Editorial Director at Telecom TV, spoke with Sue Rudd, Director, Networks and Service Platforms at Strategy Analytics.
Automation will be key to the success of future network operations, and service management and orchestration tools look set to play an important role in enabling telcos to introduce automated processes, particularly in next-generation networks, including Open RAN architectures. And to find out more about this topic, I'm talking today with Sue Rudd. She's Director of Networks and Service Platforms at Strategy Analytics. So, Sue, great to talk to you today. Thanks for joining us. Now, Open RAN has emerged as a massive topic over the past few years. Why is this important to the industry and particularly to mobile network operators?
Thanks, Ray. It's a very important topic. Open RAN has really been promoted by the operators to really allow them to disaggregate the components of the RAN and have a choice of vendors, choice of applications. But the challenge has been to really maintain the end-to-end performance in this environment. So as the operators want to have open interfaces to front haul or to decouple the radio units from the distributed units where the baseband processing is done, or from the centralized units where the smarts do the traffic load management and so on. We really need to have an environment that something, and typically what we call it is the service management and orchestration, oversees this new open environment. So while the carriers want the choice, they also want the performance and the integrated orchestration. So in this environment, to really make it feasible and without loss of performance, we need to bring in a new thing that the O-RAN Alliance has called the Service Management Orchestrator. It's also sometimes referred to as the non-real-time RAN Intelligent Controller, a wonderful term. But it's the function that allows all the resource management and optimization to occur.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's an important element and getting a lot more attention now in 2021. I mean, how important is this service management and orchestration, or SMO function, to network operators as they explore these new architectures?
Well, if you think about Open RAN, it's really different. I call this the PC revolution for the RAN, or at least the beginning of it, where we really have components that are coming from multiple sources. And what O-RAN Alliance did was to very well define the interfaces. But in order to assure interoperability and performance, you really need, if you like, a traffic cop. And that's really where the orchestration comes in to make sure that the whole system is working well together, even after all the interoperability testing. But no operator is going to be running Open RAN alone. Maybe there are a couple of greenfield ones, but even the greenfield ones like Dish and Rakuten are in fact running some legacy systems alongside. They're running 4G capabilities for legacy services, for prepaid customers and so on. And what we're seeing is that we need to be able to manage not just the Open RAN system, but have an environment where we can also bring in the legacy systems and keep the services end to end across both Open RAN and legacy RAN solutions. So it's really important to think of this as a system problem to deliver all the services across both legacy installed RAN and the new Open RAN, not just as a greenfield Open RAN requirement.
And can the deployment of SMO tools help to reduce network complexity?
Well, one of the challenges for the operators, if you've visited any of the NetOps people, is they've got all these different screens, separate screens for every network, separate screens for every vendor. And the concept of a single pane of glass has become very critical in the network operations center. But behind that single pane of glass are not only some user interface tools, but some real tools and real SDKs that talk to all the components of the network, both from a standardized interface point of view with APIs for the new 5G network functions, so that the operators themselves can create optimization and applications. If you think about it, we've made big progress with SON, and especially with CSON being a centralized ability to optimize the radio network performance from the operations center, and with vendor interfaces for different RAN technologies, different radios, different base stations. And now we need to do that for all the Open RAN components, but bring it into an environment, not just a silly or simple user interface, but with a complete developer environment, so that both the operators themselves and the third-party developers and systems integrators, people like VIAVI, as well as InfoVista, and various of the different large-scale integrators can themselves build tools for the operators in that development environment, so that what we get is some real clever optimization apps that can optimize legacy 2G radio environments, as well as the new 5G Open RAN three-dimensional environments that are going to be quite challenging.
So we mentioned automation earlier as being absolutely critical to the industry. Is automation already a critical part of radio access network strategies for operators? And are you seeing much progress here?
Well, we have seen a lot of progress in the RAN. Ironically, SON and self-optimizing networks, or self-organizing networks, as different people call them, came actually before a lot of the AI and ML tools came into the network. The good news is that SON set a lot of the business practices and policies for bringing the real-time information and developing machine learning algorithms, running open loop for a while and then optimizing them as closed loop AI algorithms. So we've got a really good process in place at the operators for developing automation tools. However, as we move into this very heterogeneous environment, we're not only moving from different technologies and open and legacy systems, but we've got multiple domains now. Private domains, which have their own automation, public networks. We've also got hybrid environments, both on-premise and in the public network. So what we've got to do is be able to automate across those. So it's the cross-domain automation tools. And there's been a lot of attention recently on service enablement being able to run across all those domains, and orchestration being able to run across those domains. So the contribution within the RAN needs to be seamless across various domains, various applications, to deliver seamless service, and then allow the operations guys to monitor the performance and tweak that and assure load optimization, and have algorithms that allow them to do that, and then be able to rapidly detect any problem and make it user transparent. If there is a network problem, virtualization allows them to deliver end-to-end service quality without them knowing if there was an underlying network problem. So some really important new dimensions, if you like, to add to the automation that's been done today.
So quite a few challenges for the network operators. Are there any specific tools that can be introduced that can help with the automation strategies they now need to implement?
I think one of the key things that we need to really think about is, what are the tools that they need to do that? Some of the tools that are needed are provided as part of the new 5G standalone SA architecture. And in fact, the O-RAN Alliance has actually specified quite a lot of tools with the new non-real-time, or the SMO, the service management and orchestration interfaces, really make it feasible to deliver to the new environment. We've even got interfaces for the open cloud, for instance. You can develop APIs that are built for the cloud providers service, so that if you have an edge service with RAN controller, you can actually feed real-time parameters to the cloud guys. We've got interfaces between the non-real-time and the real-time system that allow the operators to schedule policy parameters to change based on real-time traffic load, for instance. So we've got the APIs are there, the interfaces are there, but what we really need is a toolkit environment and SDKs and a real developer environment that allows the systems integrators to have capabilities to interface to multiple vendors and optimize the system.
Yep, a lot of things for the operators to consider, but also a lot of opportunities for advancements and greater capabilities in the radio access network. Sue, it's been great to talk to you today. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Ray.
Sue Rudd there, talking with my colleague Ray Lemaitre. Since the emergence of GSM, Ericsson has been at the forefront of cellular infrastructure technology. How does it see the emergence of Open RAN and Cloud RAN and the benefits they can offer? Well, joining me to explain how Ericsson's Cloud RAN can help CSPs with increased flexibility, faster service delivery and greater scalability in networks are Gabriel Foglander and Matteo Fiorani, who are both strategic product managers with Ericsson's Cloud RAN team. Welcome both of you, good to see you. Matteo, if I may start with you, there's a lot of discussion about a more open radio access network. So as an introduction, what are the key elements of Open RAN and how does Ericsson address them?
Thanks, Guy, for the question. So Open RAN, it's composed of three different technology areas. We have the area of cloudification, the area of RAN intelligence and automation, and the area of Open RAN internal interfaces. The area of cloudification refers to hardware and software disaggregation. So it enables the operator to purchase hardware and software independently. It also refers to the capability of running radio application on top of a cloud platform. We tackle this at Ericsson with our new Cloud RAN portfolio. The area of RAN intelligence and automation refer to the use of an open management and orchestration system with open interfaces toward the radio access network. This enables multi-vendor radio access network management, and also it enables the use of advanced automation capability in the RAN. This is tackled, for example, in the O-RAN Alliance with the new components that are the Service Management and Orchestration System, or SMO, and the Non-Real-Time Radio Intelligent Controller. And Ericsson is one of the drivers for these components in the O-RAN Alliance. Finally, the area of open internal RAN interfaces includes the possibility for operator to deploy software from different vendors in the same geographical area. There are a multitude of open internal RAN interfaces defined in different standardization bodies, such as 3GPP and O-RAN Alliance. We at Ericsson are supporting many of these open interfaces, but we are also taking a cautious approach because we know that some of these interfaces are critical for defining the overall performance of the radio access networks. So we are supporting the interfaces that we think are beneficial for the radio access network while taking a more cautious approach for the others.
Gabriel, we just heard Matteo saying there that one key area of a more open RAN is the cloudification of the RAN. Where is Ericsson's position on that today?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Guy, and thank you for having us. So we have been progressing for quite some time from the early stages of technology exploration towards a global product development organization that spans North America, Europe, and Northeast Asia. And the kind of culmination of that was 1 year ago, we announced the introduction of our Cloud RAN portfolio. As you correctly stated, this is about virtualizing those components and making it possible to run in a cloud environment. And doing so, we also added them as products in the Cloud RAN distributed unit and the centralized unit, or DU and CU as they're often referred to. And this gives a little bit of the possibilities that you mentioned on flexibility and scalability where you decide where to put those workloads. So that was a first step for us on a journey, kind of getting the introduction there and making sure that we have coverage for all the bands in 5G. And specifically for the low band, we also had the distributed unit fully in a cloud environment. The second step we took was announced here in the middle of the summer, where we progressed by introducing support for mid-band solutions, which is really critical towards our ambition of building the highest capacity Cloud RAN solution. And the reason why midband is so important right now is this is the new spectrum that operators throughout the world are deploying to enhance the experience from 4G to 5G, bring a better quality of experience for end users, and also opening up the door for monetization. So that's really key for us to be able to support in a Cloud RAN portfolio. And with that, we've also made some innovations when it comes to how you actually introduce this portfolio if you're an operator that look to deploy Cloud RAN solutions. Because the reality is that most customers already have Ericsson equipment in place, and we want to bring a good support for them in how you introduce Cloud RAN solution in a good combining way. And the resolution for that is something we call CloudLink. And CloudLink allows for the equipment that is already installed in the field to interoperate in a good way with a Cloud RAN solution that is added to it. And this allows for really advanced coordination on a near critical time basis. And that means also that you can have advanced interworking features like carrier aggregation and Ericsson spectrum sharing working across those two solutions. And we've recently also made a couple of announcements on customer progress. So we had big announcements with both Verizon and AT&T in the US, where the Cloud RAN component is part of the offering to those customers. So we're kind of progressing here from introductory stages towards customer announcements, and now we look forward to the actual deployment that is to come.
Thanks, Gabriel. Clearly, Cloud RAN is part of the larger openness story here. Matteo, how has Ericsson prepared for more open architectures?
This is an excellent question. Over the past 40 years, Ericsson has always worked with open standard and open architectures. We are recognized as a leader in 3GPP. 3GPP defines some of the key open interfaces in the radio access network, such as, for example, the radio interface that enabled the establishment of two different ecosystems for the chipset and the handset and for the radio access networks. We support many of the 3GPP open interfaces in our products today, and we will continue to support them also in the future. Lately, also another standardization body is becoming important for us, and that is the O-RAN Alliance. The O-RAN Alliance defines new open interfaces, such as, for example, open interfaces between the radio access network and the SMO. These open interfaces will enable multi-vendor RAN management. They will also enable to embed application on top of the SMO that can come from different vendors and can be used for automation and also for optimization of the radio access network. This is why we are taking a very big interest into the O-RAN Alliance, and we are the main driver for all these new components and interfaces in the O-RAN Alliance today. So we are driving the standardization work. And at the same time, we are also preparing our products to be able to support these new components and open interfaces.
Thanks, Matteo. We've seen and heard a lot from Ericsson talking about the Cloud RAN ecosystem. Gabriel, can you share your thoughts on that? Why are you so focused around the Cloud RAN ecosystem?
Yeah, I think it comes really from the fact that we're now talking about a disaggregated solution. And with that, I mean that you have our software applications would be running on top of a cloud infrastructure that in many cases could be provided by a different vendor. So in reality, when we need to bring together the full 5G experience and the solution that delivers that, it means that we need to be able to work together with partners in the ecosystem to bring that to reality. And this is, again, a little bit of a new thing in the RAN domain for us, because previously we've had the integrated product with the Ericsson basebands providing this functionality, whereas here we need to rely also on our partners to provide both equipment but also cloud infrastructure for us to be able to execute our software. And that is why it's really important for us to progress with our ability to work through the ecosystem and make sure that the strict requirements that comes from having a RAN application in the cloud infrastructure really is carried through to all vendors that provide part of the solution. And ultimately, since we are providing the application, and unfortunately we have the opportunity to still bring a radio portfolio, which is world leading, and therefore we can combine this together in a way that works across all layers of the stack and actually delivers in the end the 5G experience that our customers have come to expect.
Well, there are certainly many opportunities as well as challenges for the mobile industry as it looks towards a more open radio access network. Gabriel and Matteo, thank you both very much for sharing information on what Ericsson is doing on the cloudification of the RAN and your insights on Open RAN. This has been the first of 3 special programs in partnership with Ericsson. In our next show, we'll be taking a closer look at the market opportunities of Open RAN, and we'll be discussing the findings of a new white paper. And finally, we have a live show on Tuesday, November the 16th. Mark your calendars now. We have a packed program in store for you. And here's Justin Paul from Ericsson to tell us what we can expect to see. Goodbye for now.
Thank you, Guy. I think we've got a really exciting program lined up. Firstly, we've got a live panel session where we'll have Ericsson's Pio Lito, BT's Neil McRae, and Omdia analyst James Crawshaw, all talking about the area of service management and orchestration. We'll have some interesting technology deep dives, and we'll also have 2 software companies, Infovista and Viavi, talking about the role of SDKs and the development of our apps. And I think you'll find it's a really exciting program, a lot of insights to share with you, and please tune in. I look forward to seeing you then.
It's not only about what we can do with Cloud RAN and Open RAN, but it's also about how can we automate, how can we simplify the operations, or how can we solve the problems that they already have today.
We are the main driver for all these new components and interfaces in the O-RAN Alliance today. So we are driving the standardization work. And at the same time, we are also preparing our products to be able to support these new components and open interfaces.